Good evening. This is Dr. John Bennett, broadcasting from Miami, Florida. This is part of the series preparing for the conference in Indianapolis of the Future Wearable Tech of 2014. And this is a series of pre-conference hangouts to kind of allow us to go around to thought leaders that maybe aren't able to come to the conference, or even thought leaders that are coming to the conference that want to have another forum to express what's going on with them. Tonight we have Ismail Nabeel from Ohio State. He's done quite a bit of work with glass, and he's going to enlighten us on what he's done. And I guess first we'll start, Nabeel, with your introduction and how you well, what I like to start with all doctors is basically, when did you first know that you started liking computers?
Okay, so I grew up outside the U.S., obviously. In order to build a computer, I need to find parts from different parts, from used parts to other parts. So initially, constructing a computer is a very expensive thing for us. So I sourced the part from my colleagues, from my friends, from market that was used to sell used parts, and then that's how I built my first computer. It was days of MP3 was booming, so that was intent initially to record songs or to get songs on MP3, and that's how we resource and build computers ground up. One of my friend who now has a PhD in computer science was an avid engineer, and me and him worked with networking, figuring out things. These computer parts are mostly Chinese parts, and the only thing that was genuine in the whole computer system was the processor, which we used to source from Intel. It was a Pentium 1, Pentium 2 world, if people remember. Right. And that led to my interest in computers, and from then on, I think I've used all sort of computers that you can think of, from desktop, laptops to iPads and so on, and then the journey started with Google Glass.
Well, that's an unusual perspective for a physician to have. You're the first physician I've run into that actually built his first computer. Yeah. That must give you an unusual perspective, and you must have insights into what makes it tick, which must be pretty valuable sometimes.
Right. It gives you a different perspective. That I never went to school for a computer science education, but wrote my own HTML programs. Source Java programming, copy and pasted, and build some small applets or programs that runs on its own. I'm very fascinated about learning about different softwares. One quick thing that's interesting till about before the Google heydays, Yahoo used to be the prime search engine, and if people remember, there's a search engine called Alta Vista. And then there's Canada.com and so on and so forth. We also devised what used to be called search engine marketing. So we can write scripts that let the pages on the internet become #1 page if you do in a search engine. So those were some fascinating things that I recall from those days. That's early. In end of 1990 to early 2000, .com was almost coming to an end, so Google changed the way we used to register pages online. A fascinating look back in what we used to do.
Yeah, there used to be ways to what's called game the search engine. Fooling.
The intent was
I remember people showing me tricks on how to write the script in the same color as the page, so that fool the search engine. But I don't think you can fool Google.
Yeah, Google had changed the algorithm significantly, but we were successful. We were very successful in putting pages up on the first search that you get right from the get-go. So So that led me to other things I experiment with. The only problem is my wife, who makes sure that I don't go crazy with with the stuff that I experiment with.
You just maybe I may be premature in saying this, but this must give you, like I said about insights into the physical structure of glass, and you must have some, ways that you want to do it, the way you want to structure the glass. Do you have a lot of questions when do you question the structure and question the way it's structurally built?
All the time, all the time. There's so many things that I think you have alluded to, and other speakers have talked about how structures really matters. The things that you do makes a difference. So Paul's idea about using it in a race course track, and he wants to wear a helmet with the glass, ends up he wants to remove the battery pack in the back. Heather Evans actually wants to put the glass right on the nose tip to address the issue of filming the procedure and getting the camera right in focus with the field. So there's so many things that obviously we want to change. And we will hopefully, preferably will change. I'll give you one quick, interesting example of what exactly happened. As a surgeon gets older, he has difficulty hearing.
Okay.
So when the glass came out early on, it was a bone conductive device. It only conducts sounds and voice through bone. And
Right.
the problem we had with the initial experiment, and we'll talk more about that, is the surgeon, average age of a surgeon was 50 plus, and there has been a hearing issue listening from the device through bone conduction. And for the life of us, we could not communicate with the surgeon initially at the time. So what we devised was we created a separate headphone. We put the headphone right on top of the glass, and that augmented the sound of bone conduction for the glass for the surgeon to hear. Later on, Google came out with the additional device that allows you to listen to high fidelity sounds with air conduction. But this was early experimentation with the glass, and we did send the feedback to Google after our experiment. So things change. Things will continue to evolve.
Well, you have to meet Albert Huang. Did you see the hangout last night?
No, I was finishing up with some of my work.
Okay, well, he is an MD / industrial designer. And that's a very unusual combination, as you know. But I bet you guys would have a great conversation, because he actually changes the design of Google Glass, and I'm sure that maybe you guys could discuss how you would change it. But he has a degree in industrial design.
Amazing.
Yeah.
One thing I should tell you, John, that since we have started this journey, at least what I've done over the course of a year, I've met so many interesting people and so many great ideas that it's unbelievable. People like you, yourself, and there's so many people with the expertise. It's an amazing journey, especially the explorer community that's mind-boggling. There's so many expertise that we can collaborate at multiple level. As far as design is concerned, there are 3D printers. I recall that one of the explorers actually built a 3D box that actually covers the front of the screen, the small screen, and that allows to create more high contrast in the image. So you can download that software free of charge and build a 3D box for your prism, actually. So there's endless possibilities. Changing the main glass is going to be, we need an input from Google, and Google has to customize the glass for our needs. But that will be something.
Copyright issues on that, or?
They own the hardware piece, so they have designed the hardware piece, and they have they definitely will be more interested in if we customize it to our needs. they need to have an input or they need to have a say in that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we have an M Health lawyer on the Hangout series tomorrow night from Indianapolis. He may have some input on that, on how far you can go with redesign legally. Google doesn't come after you. I wouldn't want Google after me.
True. I think they enjoy innovations on their end as well, and I think they're interested in feedbacks. They are still I think trying, and as far as I understand, to how best use the glass in different case scenarios. And in this case, it's in medical field. I'm blown away by the fact that when we started working with the glass, we had no idea that it will be so huge, at least in the medicine world. We were just had a simple idea that this is another device that will come on and will not change anything. Just like iPad is there, we use it. Nobody talks about it. But it's been fascinating. Partly, I think I'm biased about the whole technology, and then partly being connected to this wonderful community also gave me a very good insight that others don't have.
Well, let me just tell you a quick story about me, Ismail. I basically am building a big website, internetmedicine.com, and I was basically just looking for ways to monetize it by televising conferences. And I was looking for a conference to do it with, and I just happened to hear from this conference, the Watch Conference, and that's the only way I got involved with Google Glass. Well, I was like most docs. I knew a little bit about it, knew it was in surgery, and then all of a sudden I was drawn into the world of Google Glass. And I can tell you, the last 3 weeks has been a revelation for me, because I've spoken to lots of doctors across the board, interventional cardiologists, family practitioners, surgeons, internal medical people like you, and other people. And I can tell you, it inspires a lot of passion, of passion. And I'm impressed with what I think is going to be increasing applicability and the actual use. It's not going to be just a flavor of the month. It'll be here this month and go on the next. No, this device is going to deeply impact many areas of medicine. I think almost all areas of medicine.
Right, and I want to talk to you about that. I specialize in a field called occupational medicine, environmental medicine, and also I'm also an internist as well, so I hold two qualifications. Part of my world in occupational medicine is kind of understanding exposures, and Google Glass devices is basically a revolution if you use it properly, to really not only understand the exposures among workers, but also project that ambient temperature or exposure limits onto a glass to really engage the injured worker or people who are exposed to really make decisions right instantaneously in real time. So applications is beyond, I would say, just surgery or just medicine. They can be ubiquitously used in many ways. Tying up the glass with other devices like a phone or wearable computers, which also gives me an idea about how the patient or person is working at the workplace, why he is having back pains, why he is having significant issues while other workers are not having back pains but doing the same job that they've been doing before. So it provides us with information that was not previously available at any level. Groundbreaking in many sense, how we will assess injured worker workplace, which is very close to my heart.
Well, one application, this is kind of a side note actually, with the hangout I had last night with Albert Huang, was he started talking about a concept called tele-illustration. And that was such a fascinating thing. Have you heard about that concept?
No, not yet. No,
last night was the first time I've heard of it, and he explained it. when the surgeon, okay, suppose you're the surgeon, you're operating on the screen, and I'm watching you.
Mhm.
Uh, on my screen, I can actually draw over the field of surgery which you're looking into and
Mhm.
teach students. Like, in other words, I can teach students remotely, and the surgeon has nothing to do with it. All he is acting as a camera. I can teach the students. I can point to different parts of the anatomy and see. You see why he's ligating this, and see why he's doing that.
Mhm.
That's tele-illustration for students. That's one
Amazing.
educational concept I had no idea that would be available with class.
Yeah. University of Alabama, Birmingham, has conducted similar kind of experiment where they introduced a hand into a virtual field during surgery. So that case study, casework is on a YouTube video, but they have licensed a technology called Vipro a long time back, and now what they do is introduce a virtual hand into the surgical field that allows you to trace exactly how the surgery is going on. And so they communicate back and forth between the surgeon and the physician who is outside the surgical room, who might be sitting somewhere else in the university or even in a different state. So this is a virtual hand introduction, which can pinpoint, point, or move in the surgical field through glass. So fascinating work all around. I think interesting thing that we have seen over and over again is people with great ideas, and I think they're taking a step forward to actually implementing them and using them.
Hmm. So, in occupational medicine, where do you think it'll take Google Glass will go?
Where it will go? If you asked me that question last year, I would have said it's a
Nowhere.
cool new technology.
Yeah.
People are still trying to understand. Actually, people were fascinated when the glass came out. I was the first in the institution at Ohio State to bring the glass to the medical center. I was actually the initial explorer, you can say, the 8,000 people that were selected from the community by the responses that they sent to Google. I picked up the glass from San Francisco and brought it here to the institution. So at the time when you asked me what I would have done with it, and it was a very challenging first initial meetings with the at the medical center to let them understand what technology is all about and what we can do with it. And I think since then we initially experimented with doing a live surgery under glass, sending images to rest of the medical center and showing them what been seen by the surgeon point of view. And since then, I think there's experimentation not on uh, telecasting the images outside the surgical field, but also to push the images back into the surgical field. There has been connectivity pieces that have been worked on. Wearable intelligence have reconfigured the glass and built customized apps for Massachusetts General Hospital. So there's a lot of work that has been ongoing, and I think the limitations that we are limited with, and I think the rest of the community also understand that. The device need to be have a higher processing speed, better battery, more configurations, customized for our work. So all these things will come in time, I think. Just like any, it was iPhone in 2007, where it was just bare bones, and now it's been a standard or phone that actually others are competing against, or Galaxy, Samsung's phone, which now become a more standard barrier of that. So I think over time things will evolve significantly, and we'll see more case uses.
Well, I think this device is a little unusual. I think because there are going to be so many people crowdsourcing on improvements, and people like you and other doctors that really care and really want to push this forward and and meet in platforms like Hangouts
Mm-hmm.
to kind of constructively discuss how are we going to improve this device. I don't think there's been many devices before this that's going to have so many people trying to improve a device.
This is unusual for sure, and we're just starting to understand what we can really do with this technology. It's still, I think, it's pretty early as we speak. John, I was thinking of introducing like a short video to
Sure,
showcase what we have done here
sure.
at the Ohio State
Okay.
University. So if I'm still learning about Hangouts as we speak, and we talked about
So,
this
so am
before.
I.
So see if I can share this interesting. Uh, or I need to do screen share, I think. Can
Correct,
you see
yeah.
the video?
Yeah, on the left side, not yet. On the
Okay.
left side, the
So
green arrow, click the
let's
green arrow.
let's share the screen here. So now you can
Okay,
actually
there
see,
we go. It was, yeah, okay.
right? And then I'll expand that to
There you go.
everybody.
There you go, yeah.
So let's start the video again.
Okay. I can't hear too much volume. I don't know if the volume. Are we supposed to hear the volume, Ishmael? Oh, no.
I think yes, you should be able to hear the volume. What I can do is I can see if I can increase that.
Okay, I can't hear the volume of the video. I can hear you all fine, but not the video. And that's Dr.
Just interested in sense that you're able to hear the voice, or I don't think you're able to hear
No,
it well.
I can't hear the video.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
video it's kind of unstable video. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
okay. That's fine. John, I just want to highlight some very interesting point in this
Okay.
video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you back to this particular slide. So what happened? Can you hear me, John?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Yeah. So what happened here is, if you can see, the surgeon's doing surgery on the east side, and then it transmits the video back and forth between the two places, which is remote in the central Ohio suburb. One is at Martha Morehouse, which is the central site, and then the other is the institution main campus. In order to transmit this particular segment, this segment, and I know you talked about HIPAA a lot, we got glass encrypted here. IT transmitted, IT allowed us to encrypt the glass and transmit the image real time back and forth between these three sites. The problem we were facing initially was, and I'm going to go forward. Can you see this very well?
Yes.
Right. So this is the same image that I'm showing you in the video. This is the surgeon side. This is actually a consultant who has been talking back and forth, and then we have students who are listening or
Right.
actually seeing what surgeon is seeing. So the glass was encrypted, so that we got the security established there. Then we transmit it through Google Hangouts, which was the issue we were facing initially to transmit, because at the time, Google Glass doesn't allow you to transmit videos through Google Hangouts anymore, because they've disabled that function. But at the time when we were using it, Hangouts were we were working with the Hangouts.
Okay.
So the Hangouts basically then send it to the servers back into the Ohio State University, which were secure servers. So
Right.
that transmission that occurred in between the surgeon and the secure servers were actually just streamed. And my understanding, and I am not a lawyer, is that as long as the transmission is not stored in any of the secondary servers and on stored in a remote encrypted servers onto the campus, I think we're safe as far as transmitting the information. So
Okay.
those are the very early issues that we ended up facing. And we have to think long and hard because there was no precedence in how we were doing this. At the end, we also got consent from the patient. We also made sure that every single thing that we do is acceptable, and everybody was informed about how the transmission was done. And I think I'm not the only person who struggled with the fact when we did the experiment. Um, I think Heather Evans from University of Washington, Seattle also had similar issues of transmission of data in an encrypted way to encrypted servers. So I think it's a great discussion to have. And I think things are breaking down much better since we have accomplished this feat. But that was the very initial assessment of how the device can be used in remote setting. A couple of other things that I want to highlight about this experiment is when we transmitted the information, because it's a Wi-Fi, any microwave transmission, including the use of microwave in the back of the OR, can really limit these transmissions back and forth. So it's not only in the real case scenarios, we actually have to look at all the real world issues that can go wrong in transmission of that data. One other thing that you see in the video, that the images are not crisp and clear, that's not by choice. It's basically at the time transmission was not high definition. And later on, now I think we can transmit about 720p video, which is high def. So a couple of very interesting pieces that I just wanted to tell you about, and I hope that that is something that people will like to hear and enjoy about. Right. Okay. John, so I think this is the initial journey into where we started with. And then since then we have done a couple of other experiments that I can share with you. One interesting thing that we did was a teaching file. We created a kind of a teaching file, which is this way you can see it. These are still images from a video that we created, and that video is actually used for teaching purposes. A couple of things that was highlighted in this. Again, the viewpoint or point of view is limited because the glass camera is not focused on the site, on a near site. So surgeon has to pull down the head a little bit to get things in focus. And one of the other things that we see is constant movement of the surgeons back and forth also is an issue sometimes to understand or follow the video. But this is post-produced basically after the surgeon has done the thing. But it's a very important video to highlight the shortcomings or benefits of a first-person view versus surgeon field, camera angle, production, editing. All of these things were we understood. We started to understand the limitations or areas that we can work with. Since that, I think people have now able to figure out things better, and things continues to evolve.
Yeah, so you were actually pioneers in transmitting that.
Right.
And you didn't have eyesight. You know, you've heard, eyesight that.
I know. Eyesight came later on onto the scene. I think Providence, Rhode Island Hospital has started using
Right.
eyesight to transmit HIPAA-compliant images back and forth. We take pride in doing the things by ourselves. We are a huge university with a lot of talent.
Yeah.
So I'm really proud of what we can accomplish on our own, and so it's always interesting to engage partners right here locally and build things ground up.
Well, Kyle, we had to hang out with him too, and he has an interesting background. He worked with EHRs and actually he worked within the government, so that kind of gave him insight into HIPAA as well as the other regulatory agencies, and I'm sure that helped him develop eyesight. But you guys kind of had to wing it.
True. Building solutions ground up helps you understand problems or difficulties, and you can overcome that with the different solutions, obviously, and of course. Some of the things that we are working on now is kind of transmission of information from the multiple devices to Google Glass. So that's another interesting experiment that I'm excited about.
Now, you work closely with Dr. Mader. He's the orthopedic surgeon at Ohio State, correct?
Yeah, no, I worked with a number of other physicians. So the one that I shared with you that did the electronic video file is interventional nephrologist.
Okay.
The one we
I
did
didn't hear about
was
him. No, I didn't hear about
yeah.
him. No.
He was a person that I showed pictures about doing.
Okay.
He's actually introducing a separate line for dialysis purposes
Okay.
into the patient. I've initially worked with Dr. Kading, who is the
Okay.
head
He's
of
the gentleman I'm thinking of,
sports
yeah.
medicine. Yeah. So
Right.
he's the one who was initial partner in crime, you can call it,
Okay.
to really understand the vision and go through it. He's a very interesting and very fascinating person to work with.
Good.
So that's how we start building up. And I've worked with surgeons and other people in the institution to really understand their needs and see if we have the capabilities to connect or to bring that thing that they're looking for through glass, which is very different than other people's do. I'm looking at individual cases as well, including myself, to use the glass.
Now, and certainly there's a lot of curiosity around the university about the class, correct?
Yeah, you can say that since our experiment, I received calls both internally and externally to actually know more about it. And some of the physicians now that glass is on sale have actively purchased the glass and they have contacted me about collaboration. So really exciting in that way that we've been using the glass and become sort of an early pioneers in this.
Which areas of medicine have been the most inquisitive?
Surgery, the number
Surgery.
one request.
Okay.
Surgery and the neurosurgery or neurology is, I would say, they're more interested. I've gotten some requests from interventional cardiology, so more oriented from a physician point of view that are mostly OR based. There's some interest in quality measures as well. I think the one of the issue is at this point, because it's non-mainstream, most people have ideas, and execution is at this point limited for multiple reasons. There are challenges. I also have I've also worked with ED physicians as well. Some of the residents who are interested in doing some additional work, some more simulated work, I would say, not in an actual field. And so some of the limitations that we're facing, like any other institution, it's not mainstream. So all we do is people who are passionate about come together and work on an individual problem to get a solution out of it.
Yeah, yeah, it's going in a lot of directions. And I think we may have talked about Dignity Health out in San Francisco. They're using it in office practice, and they're finding it cuts down on a lot of time spent documenting. And
Right.
you know, as a physician, you spent a lot of time
Right.
documenting.
And let's talk about this a little bit. And we talked briefly about this. The ubiquitous systems that major hospitals have, at least to my knowledge, is HIS or Epic, which is a Wisconsin company that builds EMR, and most of the 500 plus physicians who work in an institution, most of us use this Epic. At least I can say about our institution. I know Cleveland Clinic also uses Epic. And one of the shortcomings we have is Epic coming in onto the main system and sort of giving us an API or access point to engage Google Glass with the EMR. And I think once that starts happening, I think the approach or systems will evolve very fast because we have a groundwork already done with Epic. Most people are familiar with it. So if the Glass and Epic have a marriage together at this point, we'll see much more robust acceptance of the device, which I hope will come eventually. Because right now I use an iPhone. There's a program called Haiku, which is an Epic product. And I can transmit images or pictures directly into the electronic health record without the fear of putting it on my phone. Cantu is an iPad application for Epic, and same goes with Haiku. But we don't have any client for Glass for Epic, and I think if they're listening or they understand what our needs are, I think they will provide us with a platform that we can use. And I think the Glass integration into Epic need to be thought about. We need to really understand how a wearable technology or is used to enter data into a system that is actually built for computer, desktop, or mobile systems. Just like they thought about Haiku or Cantu for iPhone and iPad, they need to really think about applications, how we built for a Google Glass.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. You know, I don't know what Augmentics uses out in San Francisco with their integration of Google Glass into the EHR. But I think they may use a EHR system called Dr. Chrono, which is not it's not in the top 10 even in selling. It's not even I don't think even the top 20. But now they're integrating in the EMRs. They're integrating Google Glass.
Right. So Cronus, I think.
Dr. Chrono.
No, sorry, the EMR that you mentioned is not ubiquitously used in at least medical centers. So I'm limited in the sense of entering data, and because of the Epic or IHIS being part of the institutional package, we only enter data in systems that have been vetted by the institution, and then that's a commonplace for all other institutions as well, or physicians who work for an institution.
Okay, very good. Well, yeah, I think we're gonna next time probably talk to you. We'll probably see more. Are you gonna go up to Indianapolis at all? Or no?
I am planning to go to Indianapolis. I have one more interesting thing to share with you.
Oh, sure, sure.
Yeah. I'll go with the screen share again. I hope that you see me. I wanted to acknowledge a whole huge opportunity we have in an underserved setting, and in this case it's South Africa. And I'm just giving an example of South Africa. So they invited me to talk about Google Glass platform in a context of medicine. And I have a pleasure of giving the lecture in Curtis Square Hospital, which is the first hospital that actually did the heart transplant. So these are some of the images from the conference call. And fascinating piece about this is, as a presenter, I can actually see every single person in the audience as I demonstrated how the glass worked. And part of the interesting thing that came out from these meetings is people from different backgrounds come together and do a thing called hackathon, which is they build systems, they build solutions for problems that are just proposed right in real time. And in a matter of 2 days, I think they have very robust, very interesting solutions that they come up with. So I have a pleasure of talking about the platform. So they talk about platforms. They have mobile platforms. They have other kind of platforms that they use. But the Glass was very interesting platform for them. And I think there's a huge opportunity for us, not in US, but outside US, to really build systems where they're struggling with a robust EMR or a robust delivery of services, to build system ground up. So that's something that I think overall we'll see a lot of things happen in that context. So just to give you a worldview of where we have been, and surgeons from Curtis Square Hospital, I ended up speaking to them, and they were very fascinated about the possibilities that they can do with the glass.
Dr. Barnard.
Yes, Christian Barnard.
Yeah, one of the first. He was one of the first heart transplant docs, right?
Who did the first heart transplant, a human heart transplant in the world.
And that was his hospital.
That was his hospital.
Go back to that screen.
Yes.
Is it easy for you to go back to that screen?
Sure. I can share with you.
And I tell you, that is one rapt audience. If you look at the faces, boy, they are.
Yeah. So if you've
whenever you're talking about, they're listening. Look at their faces. Look at them. Look at them all. My God.
I know, and that brings me.
Look at them. I can't believe a medical school lecture. There's got to be a couple of people dozing and heads on the table.
None of them.
Looks like everybody is fascinated.
Yeah, and we took this image right in real time as I was speaking.
And that's from the glass, right?
That's from the glass, yeah. And that also pulls up a very fascinating view of not only medicine, but how glass can be used in settings like these, where not only I'm getting a feedback from real time from the individuals, but retrospectively, I can go back and look at how people were interested, or they can send me feeds, Twitter feeds, or responses from the attendees, and I can really focus on the things that people are interested in. So there's a whole new segment of how presentations are done.
Yeah.
So I'll just give you an insight of, and this picture highlights that fascination. If you see at the end of the picture, just on the really rear end of the person, a person is watching the phone. He's the one who invited me to the conference, so he has actually seen the glass. So, but rest of the world, the rest of the participants have their eyes glued in what I'll do next.
Yeah, it looks like a very interested audience.
Yes.
Wow, Africa, that's amazing.
Right.
And he heard about the work you're doing, and he said, "Why don't you come give us a lecture about it?"
Yeah. He came to Ohio State, sort of, and we talked about the work with the glass, and we had just finished our experimentation, and so he was putting together a conference that actually looks at disparities, health issues, delivery of care, and use of newer technologies to bridge that gap.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is in the rest of the world, John, is we are building systems from one step to another. They have now precedence because we have built systems, but they want to go beyond, above and beyond, and really retool themselves as you go forward. And we're seeing more and more of this, so out-of-box solutions. One of the interesting things that I saw was, and I'll show you one more interesting piece, which is interesting here, is if you look closely, there's a this is called Raspberry Pi. So they actually put their electronic health record onto this small device right here, which has programmable capabilities and also can transmit information. So they're thinking out of the box, and I think we'll see more and more with glass as well. That we'll see more demonstrations, more things to come. But if we build systems here which are robust, I think we can fulfill the need back in the developing countries as well.
So you using Hangouts at that in South Africa? Well, they were still legal.
I use Hangouts for some things. This is just video capture, picture taken right there.
Oh, okay.
As we speak.
Okay. All righty.
Right.
Okay, Ismail, I really appreciate you coming out and kind of filling us in on what's going on in Ohio State using Google Glass in education and in the potential for non-surgical areas. And yeah, I'm certainly impressed with the passion of every person like you and other doctors around. It's an exciting time in medicine. I know for me, I feel almost reawakened.
I'm glad. That's one thing that when I usually end of if I'm presenting on glass, and at the end of the day, if I come away with the fact that I've inspired a few more people who have more questions and they have some more better ideas than what I'm thinking about, I think we have done our job. And I think that's what it's all about. I think bringing people together and sort of creating innovation that never existed.
Yes, and I think the Hangouts can bring people like that together.
Sure.
Like we did in Boston tonight, and like I'm doing tomorrow night and you're welcome to come to a hangout with a lawyer tomorrow night if you want. But there'll be other hangouts, and hopefully a community will be built where you can communicate with doctors around the world on what you're doing, maybe in occupational medicine or whatever part of medicine you are,
right.
As well as collaborating with people on the structure of the glass, how to improve it, what applications you're thinking about. I think now we have the tools of communication. So all these improvements we can I mean, if we just develop these things alone without telling people, it doesn't really help. But if you communicate those changes, and I'll give you a quick example. I'm working with a clinic in Africa, in Zambia.
Mm-hmm.
Where they actually want help in me establishing a telemedicine program, and in the course of doing so, I discovered they have a computer, but they don't know of all the wonderful programs that are going on now. So it's just a matter of communication. It's just a simple matter. It's not healthcare because the healthcare tools are there, but they're just not communicating. You understand? See what I'm saying?
It is very, very important. Like, so the perspective I have living in U.S. Compared to perspective they have living in a different country, I think if we connect the path together, they will find a way to build systems ground up, and that's fascinating. That is truly amazing.
Well, this particular clinic, I asked the nurse, "What's the #1 killer?" It's malaria.
Mm-hmm.
And they have so many good anti-malaria programs in Zambia. There's a program called Maresco or something, where they actually have a kit where they go to your clinic and they test you, they give you the medicine on the spot. It's a tremendous program, but this clinic didn't even know about it. I mean, it's just a communication, and I hope with glass, the development of glass and the community of glass people, they really communicate and they form communities. So we'll okay, we'll end it, Ismail, and we'll have more hangouts, I'm sure, and we'll be in touch. And I'll see you in Indianapolis.
Thank you so much for having me, John.
Okay, good night.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.